You do OnlyFans as well. Do your parents know? Supportive, not supportive?
So my mom knows. I actually just told her about the OnlyFans. She's been known that I'm a dancer since I started. My stepdad knows I'm a dancer, but he doesn't know about the OnlyFans just because he has a pretty antiquated view on, the internet's there forever and safety and stuff like that. So he doesn't really.
When you say antiquated view, what do you mean?
I think it's just a boomer / Gen X perspective that.
What perspective is that?
That you.
What is the antiquated perspective?
Yeah, that you shouldn't post that stuff on the internet.
Just like conservative?
I guess that would be conservative.
And is that antiquated or is that?
I mean, I would.
It's definitely more common amongst older populations.
Wait, so your parents, do they know that you're? They said they know that you dance,
Her mom
or?
does.
Yeah, so they both
mom.
know that I dance. My mom knows that I do OnlyFans.
Okay.
My biological dad does not know either. As far as I'm aware.
And is your mom? Is she supportive?
Yes, she's all about me getting my money.
She's all about you making your money. What about your dad?
Biological dad or stepdad?
Both.
Well, my stepdad also doesn't really care as long as I'm safe. That's like the main thing for him, and the same thing for my mom. But he's also wants me to be self-sufficient and stuff like that. So that's like really their main concern is my self-sufficiency.
Couldn't you be self-sufficient though without?
It's a lot more
OnlyFans?
difficult. So I did as a young person, the only options that I have, for a job is entry-level stuff, and then also like fast food work and stuff like that. I could work my way, as a manager in a fast food restaurant, but that's really the highest up position that I could get.
And then Nala, I think you maybe talked a bit.
So my dad, my entire family knows. My mom and I don't speak anymore. She's very religious, conservative. We've never had a good relationship throughout my entire life. It didn't even matter when I was a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
My dad found out and everything, very just supportive of me. He is still a Christian. He loves me. Me and my dad have had a really good relationship throughout the years. I financially support my family because they're retired now and have like kids who have kids, and like my nieces and nephew need like things sometimes. So I love to give money to my family because I have it and they're still part of my family. Like I care about them. So even if I didn't speak to them, I wouldn't care. Like, I made the decisions I made, and I'm being very smart about it. And obviously, I know that OnlyFans is not the end result. I went to college to be a dental hygienist, and I worked in an orthopedic office scheduling surgeries and stuff. I had big girl jobs with big girl benefits that didn't pay the bills. So I'm like, listen, I have huge pursuits, like snowboarding. Snowboarding's expensive. I want to be tutored in Japanese. That's expensive. Like, I wanted things that I couldn't achieve with a normal job and like something that men think that I should be doing, So me pursuing this OnlyFans career gave me so much freedom to expand as a human being. And I was like, wow, like this is what I want to do. And again, this won't last forever.
Just out of curiosity, you couldn't have gone snowboarding and learned Japanese without doing OnlyFans?
What I'm telling you is that it costs money that I didn't have. Doing things like being a surgery scheduler, working like I said, I went to college. Like I got my little degree and everything, and that got me nowhere.
Especially with this economy right now.
It's so bad. I could not live in California doing what I did. Absolutely not. It's so bad. And then I was like, I have to get a second job as a female who doesn't have a boyfriend I wasn't being supported by anyone. So I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm really good at having a presence online. And I pursued so much. I don't just do OnlyFans. And OnlyFans is really like my content for OnlyFans is slowed down so that I could pursue bigger things that led me down different financial routes. So again, this was a starter, not an ender.
Can I ask one question about to all the girls that do OnlyFans? Because Lord knows y'all make a lot of money, and I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I make jokes at work, and I'm like, I work obscene amount of hours to not make anywhere near as much money. But there is a part of me that's also wondering, like you like you said, you can't do this forever.
No,
and when you go back into, let's say, civilian life, you're gonna look at everything and be like, I'm not gonna accept any of this because you're gonna make a eighth of what you made.
So it's not about that. What I'm trying to do is set myself.
I almost want to answer on.
You're gonna make money. No. But
because
the point of making
you're smart.
The point of making that much money.
I was about to say, like,
I'm not going back to a normal job.
If you're smart, but that's the whole point.
If you're smart,
so you're investing.
Not every girl is.
You're investing.
No, they're not.
I see.
No. Hold on. I think, perhaps you don't have any history on Nala. Nala, let me ask you a question. If you wanted to retire today, could you?
1,000,000%. I could have retired a year ago.
So it's, you're not familiar with Nala, but I think asking her that specific. Granted, there are women who do OnlyFans who they will face that challenge. But I think Nala here is an exceptional
You're an
learner.
exception for it.
Well,
So-
it's just so much more about growing yourself as a person and not just growing and making content and taking pictures of yourself. That doesn't help you do anything bigger. And then when you're making this much money as such a young person, you're like, wow, this is the time to be an adult. You need to set up for your future self. Like you need to think of like the future Nala and be like, you know what? She'd want to be comfortable too. And she would want to continue sending her parents money.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact because I don't feel like I'm changing anytime soon. You know, so that was the biggest purpose of this, and I felt so steady in my decision making through this and financial, just like maneuvering. I'm so thankful that I did what I did.
I have
For
a
sure.
quick question. If you went to your parents and you asked them, you said, you know, I have a choice. I can either quit doing all of this tomorrow, right, and go get a job for like a tenth of this, or I can continue to do this and send you money. Which one do you think they would ask?
My mom would say, absolutely quit. My dad, he'd be like, oh my God, no, why would you ever quit?
Your dad would say that?
My dad would say that I send money to my dad so that he can be comfortable with like
he's a-
their
he's a
family.
pastor?
No, he's not a pastor anymore. They stopped being a pastor when I was like 18.
Okay, but he
So.
was, and he retained his faith, right?
He did. I'm his daughter though. You know, I'm not just some stranger. He's like, you know what? If I want
I think,
her in
doesn't
my
that
life,
make it worse? Like, wouldn't that make it
absolutely
worse?
not. Don't you have to
Would you
accept your
leave her,
kids for who
though?
they
No.
are?
Yeah. What?
And
So you
what?
would-
No.
So wait,
Hey, no
wait.
more- no,
Guys,
like-
one mic at a time.
Are you
One
just
mic at a
saying
time.
that,
I'll
like,
let
let's
you
just
come in.
say,
Go
Hang on,
ahead.
I'll
let's just
answer.
say,
I'll answer the
if you had
question.
a kid and they were doing OnlyFans, what, you just disown them because they're doing, they made a bad decision.
Until they clean their life up, yeah.
You're a bad parent.
Wow, that's
My
terrible.
family would
That's bad
That's
parenting?
absolutely
My family would
terrible
100%
parenting.
disown me.
Okay, well then,
100%.
what about you're a bad kid?
No,
Okay,
you can
we're
think
allowed
your
to make
kid
that
is bad.
Guys, please.
Yeah,
one at a
you
time.
can-
One person speaking at a time. Go
You
ahead.
can think your
then
kid
you guys
is
can talk.
bad.
Go ahead.
You can think your kid is bad and disagree with their life choices, sure. But as a parent, you're supposed to be like a guiding figure and a loving figure, and part of
they've
that is not
rejected
abandoning
it.
them
Yeah.
in their time of need.
They've-
And
what
if
do
you
you
want,
mean?
if you
They're
want to
giving
talk
you the
about
middle finger.
Christianity, if you want to talk about Christianity, if you want to talk about like God and Jesus and the countless stories there are in the
Wait.
Bible of like still
I
accept.
gotta respond to this. I
Okay,
gotta
okay,
respond to
okay.
this. Okay, listen. First of all, let's dive into this just a little bit. Okay, my daughter calls me up and she's like, "Hey, Dad, you know, I'm still going to be doing OnlyFans, but I'm kind of thinking about not doing it." Right? I would say, "Yes, absolutely, don't do it." In her situation, she's like, "No, he would totally be cool with
You're
it."
saying you would
Because
disown your
you're
child.
Hang
You're
on.
saying you would
What-
say
what was
be
the
gone, child.
What was the context? The context is
doesn't
until what?
He
No,
supports
the context
Until-
was
decision.
we asked the question was straightforwardly asked. If you found out your daughter had OnlyFans, what would you do?
And I
you were
said
saying
until she cleaned up, I would not be participating with her or allow her in my
you
life.
said you would
It's probably easier for
disown
them.
her.
Why is that awful?
Because you're not supporting your child
Yeah, I'm
anymore.
not supporting
You don't have
bad,
to support
horrible
what you're
decisions that they're
doing, but
making.
you shouldn't
I'm making
disown
them
them.
face
A
consequences.
decision doesn't make them as a whole, though.
Yeah, the thing
You
is,
all know better.
No.
You literally told me you know for sure
I
what you're
didn't
doing
say-
is bad, and you're just going to do it anyway. And then you're like,
who
"Dad,
said it's
support it.
bad,
It's
though?
crazy."
Who said it's bad though?
That's
Because
crazy to
didn't
me.
say
Even
it was
Nala,
bad.
even what Nala said, she said her dad doesn't support. She might not support what she does, OnlyFans, whatever. But he's like, you know what? You're my daughter, and if that's what you want to do with your life, that doesn't.
Yeah,
mean
but are you
I'm saying yeah, go and do that.
but are
Go
you
do
sure that this
OnlyFans,
isn't
but
just
I love
cope?
you, and I'm still gonna be in your
Are
life.
you sure that's not just cope? Because the same thing could happen to you.
Well, that's not true at all, though.
Yeah, isn't it though? Isn't it
Because-
really cope? You're just upset because your parents might actually do this to you. They might make you feel the consequences
Well,
of
then
this,
let
right?
them. And then what? You're just an
Exactly.
You don't
independent
care.
without parents
No,
that don't
I-
So
give
if
a
you
fuck?
don't care if they
I care.
disown you,
Of
why would you
course
say
I
they're a
care.
bad parent?
No,
No,
of course I care.
I'm calling you a bad
Wait,
parent.
One at a time. One at
Do
a
you
time.
think your daughter?
Wait,
do you
you
think
said
your
I
daughter
would-
would care if you abandoned her?
Yeah,
Very
it's
simple.
not abandoning. You're
You're
abandoning
saying
an
you
adult.
disown her.
An adult
Yes, you can. There is no age that you can not abandon your
stuck
child.
with your kids when they're 60 and making bad choices
You
in
don't
your
have to
80s.
support them.
What?
Nobody
You don't
said
make
you
bad
have to.
decisions?
Okay,
No, no.
You don't have to
One at
say.
a time,
Oh,
one at a time.
okay. You
Yeah,
don't
one
have
at
to
a
say
time.
every decision they do is good. You don't have to support every decision they do. But that is very distinct than disowning your own child. And
Do you
I
know-
hope we can all agree.
Do you know
with
what
that
a
here.
limit is? Do you
Yeah,
know what-
you're
do you know
allowed
what-
to have. Let's make
Stop
it
being
no.
so
That
emotional and be
hurts.
logical
She's
for
been-
5
I
seconds.
am being.
Reel
I have a
other
big
people
question
into
though.
the
For me, it's
conversation.
like, what if you committed adultery against your wife, and then your kid found out about that and disowned you because
Should
you
my
did
wife
that?
abandon me? Should my wife abandon me when I commit adultery and do something she doesn't
I'm talking
like?
about the daughter.
No, no.
Is
Answer
it
my
right for-
question. Hang on. This
But
is
you
a
didn't answer
perfect.
my
My
question.
wife. So
Is
my
it a question with a question
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah. I'll
Oh,
answer.
okay.
So I'll answer. I'll answer. Then you answer. So the answer is yes. I would.
Sorry,
But
sorry. I did say that she could go, so
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry,
but
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So I was saying is I feel like, so me and my mom were distant, at a point when she found out, but then I feel like as a mother, like she just understands, one, from her for a Catholic perspective, it's not mine, it's that Everyone has their own sins. She has no place to judge me because she has her own things. And then the other thing is, she noticed, like when we're talking about bad life choices and your kid coming back when their life's cleaned up, my mom realized I was always just on a better path when I had her love in my life. Like when I was distant from her, then I was going further into things that she didn't want to see me in, because just having your parents' love is just kind of motivating. Having your parents' acceptance, any goal you have of your kid just doing better for themselves will be easier when they know that their parent loves them. Mm-hmm. Even if you know, I don't support this, I don't want to hear about this, but I still love you. Maybe you barely talk to them every day, but okay, for me, I'm diabetic. Do you think my parents would never, they would never stop giving me insulin. I could have done anything in the world. They would always make sure I have my insulin. Yeah, like certain things. You see what I'm saying? I know that's a different extreme, but it's kind of like, it's like.
Doc Vinably donated $200. If my daughter did of, that means I failed her as a father. She would do of only if I am dead or in jail. Your fathers are morally weak men.
They are morally weak men.
I guess, could I ask you, who do you think is the example?
Well, I mean, you can say you, but he's right. Look, the chatter's right.
Can I ask you a question?
Hang on, let me finish my point. I'm going to tell you, right? You do have to be a morally weak man if they know. Like in your case, maybe not, because your dad doesn't know. Okay, but a lot of people that I've talked to here, their dads do know, and they're just like,
but we're adults.
My dad doesn't like it.
We're able to make our own decisions.
My dad doesn't like it.
Just let me finish my point. I'm almost done. Okay. Yeah, I think that that's a moral weakness to say, I will enable you. I will enable you to do this threshold breaking thing, especially from a Christian perspective. It's insane. I don't know why anybody would do it. I would say, listen.
You know why? Because real Christians love everyone.
So then why not just make everything permissible?
I love the fact that you're like, I'll disown my daughter. That's not.
So everything's permissible.
I didn't think
there's a difference between
deleting someone is not permissible.
No, okay, but all social behaviors, all everything, Christians must permit that.
Who's the example in Christianity for
Answer the
parenting?
question.
Ask him that. Who in
I didn't
Christianity?
even get an answer to my
Given her
question.
answer, I'm asking you the question. Is all forms of social behavior something which are supposed to be permissible to Christians?
I don't think it should be permissible. I think that you should love no matter what.
So then if it's not permissible, then I'm not giving permission, which means I'm not endorsing it, which means I'm not allowing it, which means I'm totally against it.
But if your kid is an adult, why do you have to allow them to do something?
What do you? I'm not allowing them to.
The question I have for you.
What are you talking about?
Who in Christianity is the example for parenting? Who is it?
You mean in which context? Which saints are you talking about?
What? I'm talking about
There's saints which you can look to as examples in parenting.
Who do you look to as the example for parenting?
As the example inside of Christianity? Of course, I look at Jesus.
One sec.
Honestly, Nala has a special brand of daddy issues. Every girl has a craving for attention. If she doesn't get it from her dad, she will get by being a thought.
So
Here, I need to.
Yeah, look at Jesus Christ.
Do you want to
of
answer?
course.
But like, I do want to. I have so many notes I have to get through. So go ahead. It sounded like you wanted to say something. So
I feel like a lot of people think that because what I do, I have daddy issues or mommy issues or whatever the it is. But it's honestly, it's a self-made choice. I didn't go to my dad and be like, should I do this? And he just gave me like all this advice to do it. I came to them, told them, because I wanted to be honest with my parents. They have that reason, they have that decision to make with their kid if they do something like this. You know what I mean? Like whether they want to be in your life or not. I think it's bad parenting if you don't want to be in your kid's life, no matter what they do. I'm not saying if they like delete someone, that's a great, I don't know. I feel like the line is just too broad here.
So let me ask you this. Can you make the judgment and the value-added judgment on what's bad parenting? I have children. Do you have any?
No.
Okay. And then on top of it, from your parents' perspective, you turned out to go off and do OnlyFans and like show your butthole online for money. How's that great parenting? How could you come to me and say what a great parent should do is this? You're the perfect example of everything that nobody should listen to for great parenting.
Is Christ a terrible parent because like so many of his sons and daughters commit sin? You said Jesus is your example for parenting. Who did Jesus dine with?
This is a hilarious
Who did he dine
argument.
with?
Of course he died for everybody.
No,
who
who
did
did
he
dine
dine
like
with?
eat?
Oh, dine. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Who did he dine with?
In which context? Like his apostles or
Matthew,
when?
in the Gospels. Who did he dine
he would
with?
dine with everybody. He dined with sinners. He would dine with
Who
saints.
did he call godless fools and rejected outright?
Okay, just stop.
Who?
Just get to your point.
He
You should
called.
know this.
Well, it's fine if you don't know
should I?
this. The
Well-
people he called godless fools was Pharisees, the leaders of the religion. Whereas in
Okay.
the cases of women who were adulterers, tax collectors,
The ones he told to sin no
lepers,
more?
He told them to sin no more,
Sin
but
no
he
more.
still dined with them.
And he told them to sin no more. He
I
said, go and
agree,
sin
but
no
disowning
more.
is not the same thing as saying sin no more.
Disowning until a behavior is modified.
No.
That's behavior modification.
No, it's not.
How do you? Oh,
there's
okay.
a million
So-
ways
He
to
didn't
not. Hold on.
condone their behavior.
There's a million ways to condone an action. How do you even reconcile the prodigal son when the father, as the son walks home, says, "You've been my son the whole time." He never removed it. The son left, and the father allowed him to live out the consequences of that. But the father didn't disown
first
him.
of all,
The
that's-
father didn't send him away. And when
yeah.
he came back, he threw him a massive party.
Yes,
Oh,
the
the
parable.
prodigal child.
The
prodigal
well,
son.
the parable of
Yes.
prodigal son. But here's the thing: when you're looking at what happened in the results of the prodigal son, the father did not go where the son was committing all these heinous acts.
We're not saying-
Stop.
We're
let
not
me
saying you
finish
should
now.
start an OnlyFans. That's
saying
what we're
we're not
saying.
saying
Am I allowed to get my point
We're
in?
not saying join
You're
OnlyFans. We're
just
saying you
gonna
don't
spur-
disown
You're all
your child.
spurging. You're all spurging. You're all spurging. Calm down. Let me finish my point. Okay. Dad didn't go where he was. Dad wasn't going and trying to pull him back. He wasn't doing any of this. He was saying, I don't endorse what it is that you're doing, what you're going after. Yes,
not
he
what he
did
said.
say that.
He never
He told
said
him
that.
it was a bad idea to leave.
That's a very big difference between
Okay,
saying
he
that
told him it was a
condoned
bad.
him
Now he
everywhere.
left anyway after breaking the fortune, and then when he came back humble, with his
With
tail between his
nothing.
legs, crying his eyes out, did his father say, "You've now returned to me, the prodigal son, and now all is forgiven"?
You have always
Yeah.
is the key word here. You've always been
They're
my
still
son.
always your kid.
Not if
but
you
that
disown
doesn't
them.
mean-
Like,
That doesn't mean that you
Not
have
if you
to-
disown them.
That doesn't mean you have to
The difference
enable
is,
it.
in the cases like, did he not go with them to like go and slut it up with whores and blow money on crack? No, he didn't. But she's not saying, "Hey, Dad, come do OnlyFans with me. You should."
My
start
dad
it
is
with
nowhere
me."
in my life.
Yeah, but my point
Physically.
is that again, when he came back humble, when he came back correct, when he came back from doing the horrible things that he was doing, then Dad said, "Yes, welcome back in. You were always my son. Of course, I never stopped loving you." But he was not endorsing all the
At
things.
no
that the
point was
kid-
he disowned,
Let me
though.
finish. He was not endorsing all the things the kid was doing. He was
I'm
not
not
going out of
asking
his
you
way
to.
to make sure that the kid had additional money to continue sinning where he was at. He wasn't doing
I'm
any
not
of
asking
that.
I'm not saying any of these things. The issue is that if Christ is the example for parenting and he loves you every single step of the
He's
way,
not the only example.
disowning your child is the opposite of that thing. Now, I am fine with parents getting to decide if they like don't want to like support that. They tell them explicitly. Like, I would be fine with a relationship. Like, my parents are Christian, my brother's gay. I'm fine with them regularly being
Can the
like, "Hey,
Catholic
disagree
Church
with this."
excommunicate people?
Yes, but the Catholic Church is in no way the same thing as a
Yeah,
parent.
so if the Catholic Church excommunicates somebody, are you saying that what they're doing...
Why do they excommunicate?
finish.
Hold on, that's an
Stop,
extremely
stop.
Holy
important
Stop.
fuck, we're getting.
Stop.
Okay, make a final point, and I'm
Okay,
moving
I'll
on.
make it
Christ
quick.
friends with
Okay.
Paul.
If you make
Why we-
No, Mary Magdalene
if you make an excommunication, why is it that they're not turning their back on their children?
Okay, an excommunication at an apostolic level of the Catholic Church is about godless fools. It's about
Not always.
Pharisees. That is why the Eastern Orthodox was removed. They broke up with
They
you
didn't- they-
because they
no, the
thought
other
that
way.
you got
It was the other way
I know
around.
you guys broke up with us after, but that's just not true. The reason that they were
Wait, you're a
excommunicated.
Catholic?
I'm not a Catholic, but I'm
Yeah,
like
come on,
theologically
you're not a Catholic.
Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm more Catholic than I am Eastern
Okay,
Orthodox.
20 seconds. 20
The
seconds.
reason
go.
that churches excommunicate is because they're violating the nature of God Himself, not because they're doing a sin that they dislike. It's extremely different, and these types of sins, like blaspheming the Holy Spirit, is in no way comparable to moral sins or virtue sins, which maybe OnlyFans is moral sins, or maybe it's a virtue sin. I'm not sure where it falls specifically, but acting like the church can excommunicate so parents can excommunicate their children is a bastardization of why the Catholic Church does this in the first
So
place.
let's look at this logically to what you're saying, not what the
She is
distinction,
Final point,
which
final
the
point,
distinctions
final
and the
point.
reasoning are. Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to respond. What the distinction and the reasonings are. Let's look at this from a holistic. You claimed, listen, because Jesus Christ said thing X, it's not proper for you to then say, nope, I'll walk away from this. But it is proper for the Catholic Church to do the same thing under the same circumstances. And your only claim to this is to say
It's
that they
disanalogous.
rejected
It's
that they
disanalogous.
rejected Christ. So the same thing happens
No,
exactly
sin is
here.
not rejecting Christ.
Oh,
and
it
you
can
know
be
that.
rejecting Christ.
Yes, blaspheming,
Yes.
Blaspheming the
blaspheming
name of
the
God.
Holy
Yes.
Spirit.
But here's the
is.
thing,
But what the Pharisees did was
Nope,
bad
no,
enough.
no, no, no,
Okay.
no, 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 no.
These are disanalogous, and you're being dishonest. with me.
No, that's not. They're not disanalogous. This is your logic.
No, this is the logic of like
You guys
all of the
can-
no,
theology.
it's just your logic.
of
Okay,
the
okay, okay.
Catholic-
Here,
Wait, interlude. Can we? But it's weird. Why is it weird? She said it was weird. I don't know what she said. Why is it weird? Say what you want to say.
I just feel like it's none of your business, like anyone's business to like know what anyone's body count is, like, and quite frankly, like I wouldn't even want to know from another guy, because then like if it's a
Okay.
number I don't want to hear, like I'm not gonna like you
All
anymore.
right. Well, maybe we'll come back to that. We'll continue going around the table. I want to get everybody's answers. Go ahead.
No.
You don't object to? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair to, for that to put you off. But I would also say that maybe
Sweet Tooth, thank you for the gifted 20 memberships. Maybe.
I would say that maybe don't discount somebody because of that, because it's not necessarily. I mean, you could really miss out on somebody good who has a past that you know, maybe doesn't align with your virtues, but also maybe they've grown from that. And so yeah.
I'd probably still discount them, but
I don't object.
oh, okay. So just to bring it back, why is it weird?
It's invasive.
What's invasive?
The whole body count phenomena.
What do you mean?
To like
Here, let me give you a scenario. Let me give you a scenario. Let's say the guy doesn't even ask. He just knows because you've been friends with, you know, maybe he's been in your social circle and he's known you for 3 years and he's known you've gone out to parties and bars. He's heard it through the grapevine that you've slept with 20 men in the past 3 years. He doesn't ask you outright. Is it invasive then for the guy to not want to date you because you've slept with 20 men in the past 3 years?
No, but I do think it's heavily judgmental.
It's heavily judgmental. So you object to judging people. Didn't you say earlier that your allowance, well, not allowance, but you need a guy to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on you a month?
I said that's the average amount of probably what it would come to if you're putting like fun things, like the average relationship expenses into play, but definitely not an allowance.
Would you date a guy who works at McDonald's?
No.
So you're judging him.
What kind of judgment is that?
That's a judgment.
You could have been missing out on like the best burger flipper ever, and you just pass him by. How judgy.
I don't know. I think body counts between like 10 to 30 in today's society is like normal, honestly.
Let me ask a different question I'm just curious about. Assume right this second you enter into this dating market. I don't know much about the dating market. I've been off it for a long time, and thank God for that. But let's say you enter into it right now and you were a virgin. Would it be invasive if somebody asked your body count then?
Yes. I still wouldn't tell anybody because I feel like guys take advantage of women who have low sexual experience.
How do they take advantage? How do they take advantage?
Do you think then that most women's answers, when they answer that it's invasive or they don't like it or this type of thing, is because they have themselves a high body count?
Not necessarily. I don't even consider myself to be in that category. I just don't think it's a man's business. Like, why? Like, what benefit do you gain knowing who I've slept with in the past? Like,
so we can disqualify you from dating.
Yeah, but I agree
No
with
one
what
has
she's saying
asked me
too. Because sometimes ignorance is bliss. Like, let's say hypothetically you meet.
Give me the red pill.
That's the blue pill.
Okay, let's
Ignorance is
say
bliss.
I want to know so I can make a determination of, do I want to date this person, yes or no? I don't want, like, I would want that information. That way I can make a determination.
Yeah, but let's say in every single aspect of this one person, let's say you've been meeting people and it's never worked out with anyone, and you meet this one person, they're absolutely perfect in every single aspect, and then except this one thing.
But they have
that
a
you
body
find-
count of
that
100?
You find out later. Okay, not 100, but you said what you consider high is 10. Let's say it's
Well,
20.
I'm using the extreme, I'm using the extreme on both sides. So the extreme is, this is the perfect woman.
Butler donated $200.
Thank you.
Since 1 in 3 women aged 16 to 30 has a STD now, and condoms don't protect from genital herpes, body count matters.
Yep.
Feminism turned your
Herpes,
lady
yep.
parts into a radioactive wasteland. I'm gonna go vomit now.
Radioactive, by the way. Here, let me drop the nuke. Actually, Nick, could you click the nuke red? Click nuke red. Yeah, radioactive wasteland. There it is, folks. Look at that. Holy, that's what it's looking like. All right, Nick, you can. Yeah, look. Okay. So to use an extreme on both ends, you're saying, well, the perfect woman, she's perfect in every way. She's a 10 out of 10. She's whatever. But here's the extreme on the other end. She has slept with over 100 men.
Yeah.
That's a no.
But wouldn't you rather just not know? Like you want to keep her as this perfect.
No, I
being
want the
and you
truth. Truth über alles.
But let's just,
I want the truth overall.
Let's just kind of grant it though.
You know what?
And say your preference is that you didn't know, because for you, right, not knowing is a thing that you would prefer.
Yeah. Because
Would you say there would
don't
be
really
any
care.
problem though?
Like, I honestly don't.
Would you say there'd be any problem though for a person who did want to know? They did want to know the truth. Maybe ignorance is bliss for you is true, but maybe for another person, ignorance is bliss, not so true.
But like, why do they want to know so badly? And like, with the thing with STDs, you
Why
can
do you
get
want
an
to be so
STD
ignorant
test.
so badly?
Literally.
Well, I just don't really care. It's not that I want that so badly.
Right.
And if like my boyfriend comes to me and he's going to tell me his body count, I'd like run away and close my ears.
Right, but
and
your
everything.
pushback is ignorance is bliss. It's like, okay, that's fair enough. It's true. Maybe if you're ignorant about something and you didn't have any foreknowledge to it, you might go a certain way. Like, okay, maybe, but if another person had the preference to not be ignorant on the topic, what still would be the objection? Other than you just kind of think it's icky, right? That's really it. When you get down to the value judgment, in other words, aren't you guys really just saying, I think it's icky? I think it's yucky. There's not really anything else to that?
I mean, it's like someone's privacy, like their personal life. Like to me,
is something that's very intimate and it's
Is
like
it?
private.
And that's-
Oh, is
Well,
it intimate if you have a high body count?
Yeah, that.
But,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
but I think I think Izzy and I kind of see similar to this on this particular topic, because we're not using this as an excuse to be promiscuous, you know, and sleep with a bunch of guys. I'm just saying I think it's rude for a man to ask a lady, how many guys have you slept with?
It's not rude.
I recently actually spoke to a guy about this, and I think him and I like kind of agreed on the standpoint, like, we don't need to know each other's body counts, but if we both are in an area and you see somebody that you slept with, do me the favor and let me know. And we're in the same area, and I'll do the same.
That's
But, like,
asking you your body count, just in a different way.
It's just like,
If you slept with a dude, could you just point him out? That's not invasive. but the alternative of asking how many you slept with is too invasive.
like if
For real?
if we're like at a party or something.
That
just
sounds
so-
10 times
no,
worse
no,
to me.
No, just so they don't make a fool out of themselves and the person is there, you know. But like to go out and ask for a number like that's just
And
wild,
that's-
and I'll
that's
never give
actually-
it to you.
Just point out the person, right? It's like, what?
This
Come
is
on.
actually a great reason why men ought to date women with low body counts. So the likelihood of you being in a scenario where you're in the same room as another man who's fucked your woman, you're just almost making our argument for
Yeah,
us.
in fact, that's your demand. You're like, hey, I had a conversation with a guy,
no,
and he
but-
was like, look, if you've been in a room with other dudes that you've been,
No, but
can you
it's-
point them out? That's literally asking you your body
No,
count.
but stuff happens. Like sometimes you be like out at a party
just
and like
happens. Yeah, it
somebody
happens.
Food just happens and you're like, damn, like that's
You know how it is. You're at a party sometimes, and you're just hanging
You
out,
just
and
see
then and
three
walk in
people-
people you slept
three
with. That's
people
how
like
it works.
what?
Sexual intercourse with at the party.
Okay, it's
Wait,
if you have a small circle, like it's sometimes you see people out. It's true.
How many people in the small circle have you had sexual intercourse with? God damn.
Imagine like a
Enough
college
to
campus,
point 'em out.
for example, like a college campus, like people in college be doing craziness. Like
That's true.
you're bound to see somebody there. Like you should, like, you know, like it's not like that.
Look, okay. I'm still not sure why it's weird. I have a question for the ladies, though. Would you date a guy who had sex with men?
Nope.
Like they're bisexual.
Yeah, sure. He previously had sex with men. Would you date him?
I've never really thought about it.
Think about it right now.
I mean, as long as like I don't see what difference it would make. They're bi.
okay. Okay. Are you bi?
No,
Okay.
I'm straight.
What about you?
I've been close. I've like kissed a bisexual man.
Would
but
you have a long-term relationship with a guy who's had sex with men?
Yeah, I think I could do it.
She thinks she could do
think
it.
I could do it.
What about you?
Hard no.
But hold on. That's not any of your business. That's his
What kind of
past.
value judgment is that?
That is a value judgment.
Yeah, sorry. Nope. That is my business because that same individual's thing has been in like a man's thing, and it's really my business.
Well, wait a second.
yeah, no.
There's a little cognitive dissonance going on here. Because you're saying you have no right to know my past and what I ever did.
Yeah, my
And so what if-
straight heterosexual past.
So then what
yes.
if you're hanging out and you're dating a guy and you really like him and he's like the one and he spends the $10,000 a month on you, the whole nine.
But this
you
is
know what I
not-
mean? And you
don't
just
twist my
and
words.
one day you just like pick up the phone and this guy's like, yeah, it's Chuck and I used to sleep with this dude. Would you dump him?
Immediately.
It sounds like a value judgment.
It does sound
little
like
bit.
a
Sounds
value
like
judgment.
judgment.
Call it what you want. I can't beat with a man like that. I'm sorry.
Going around the table, would you have a long-term relationship with a guy who had sex with men?
Depends on compatibility in other
thought you-
aspects, but no.
Okay, but no. Okay.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's a no.
Absolutely not.
Are we supposed to answer this one? I don't know. Okay. Well, okay. So some of you said body count does matter. Some of you said body count doesn't matter, shouldn't matter. You don't object to men caring about body count. So it begets the question: what's your body count? Starting with you.
Over 100.
From you, going this way.
I'm not answering because I think that should be private between me and my boyfriend.
I thought you said body count doesn't matter, shouldn't matter.
I mean, I don't know. I also said it's no one's business.
You don't have to answer.
Okay. What about you?
I'm genuinely not sure.
Range
Like
or over X number.
like no more than 20. So 15 to 20, I would say.
Okay.
Decline the question.
I thought body count didn't matter.
It's nobody's business.
Okay.
Ditto.
Private.
0, waiting for marriage.
I'm sorry, you spoke. You got, guys, please. We do need you to speak.
I said 0, I'm waiting for marriage.
Oh, that's really nice.
Good for you.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's marriage. Okay. It's interesting, though. You guys say body count
Well
doesn't
done.
matter, but you do refuse to answer the question. I find that interesting.
I think privacy, my right to my privacy is what is important to me, and I don't want to share it on the internet.
That's
May I
fine.
ask you
That's fine.
something?
I do think it's
I
interesting.
have a question too that I'm
Yeah.
just curious about, kind of folding into this.
My question is, I can respect your position, but then this podcast is famous, for, sometimes infamous, for asking these questions, you know? So I wouldn't go on it if that was my position.
Yeah, but I had the option to decline to answer.
Well, I suppose you could decline to answer every single question we ask you, but
Yeah, and then I'd probably would never come back here. Wouldn't get invited back.
So some things just don't need to be on the internet. Like if you wanted to be on the internet,
look, you don't have to answer the question. It's fine. It's just like it kind of, your whole position of, well, body count shouldn't really matter. Men shouldn't really care about it. But I also really want to reserve that information because you think you'll be judged on it.
Well, I have a different question I'm curious about. So all of you guys almost unanimously said if a guy had ever been with another guy, it's like no, right off the gate, which by the way is awesome. But
Andrew, stop! You're gonna get canceled, dude. They're gonna cancel you.
Let me
Andrew.
ask this a different way. Should a guy be able to, or should a guy get together with a woman who has had same-sex activity?
with another woman.
With a woman. So a woman did same-sex activity with a woman. Should a man get together with her?
Men love that.
Double standards. Double standards. Hello.
It's a little different.
Oh, is it?
Oh, you think so?
What? No. What's the difference? If the standard is you had a same-sex relationship, so that's a no-go. But if this sex had a same-sex relationship, that's a-okay. What's?
I mean, that's up to you. You know what I mean? If that bothers you, but I don't think it bothers most men.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not, but we're still holding the standard here, right? What makes it a no-go for you guys? If a man was in a same-sex relationship for you not to date him, what is that force that drives you where you're like, no?
I think masculinity and femininity are very different. So when it comes to same-sex relationships with men, like men and then women, I just think it's a lot more. It's a bigger leap to go same sex with a man than.
That doesn't really answer the question at all. So, like, the question specifically is this same-sex activity between two men. You're like, no go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. Why?
Because it's very emasculating. In my
What if
opinion.
he's
That's pretty. That's kind of as emasculating as it could get.
That's it? It's just a masculinity issue?
Yeah, I think so.
There's no other
I mean, it's
underlying
also.
reason?
Yeah, I mean, let's not get into that, but. you
But
know.
there is, right? There's
Yeah.
other underlying
Oh,
reasons
sure,
there,
sure.
right?
But that's, and also I don't know if that would apply to female same-sex situations.
Why?
Because there's different body parts getting involved.
Yeah, I'm not. I
Okay.
just don't understand the standard, I guess.
If I can jump in on that, though. So if you guys are kind of repulsed by the thought of men doing that, then like the thought of you doing that with other men, that's kind of how we
look
feel
at it, right? To draw it all home, that's the same way that we would feel the opposite
about
way.
you guys
right.
being with.
Other men.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect.
I mean,
It's a little
It doesn't
different,
map
but
on one-to-one, but
Yeah.
you could get the preference
You
here.
get it, right?
I understand, and that's kind of why I'm like, I don't really encourage promiscuity. Like, I actually prefer to be like with one person for long, extended periods of time.
Beautiful.
But to each his own. Like, it's your body, you know.
Speaking of which, this is actually why I refuse to date a woman who's had sex on camera with another man. Speaking of Sean Evans, call back to 2 hours ago. If a woman has had sex with a man on camera, that is a 100% a deal breaker for me. You're out.
Do you mean like a home flick or
You
OnlyFans?
are out. Afuera! Out you go, afuera. Where's my f***ing soldier? Wait, how did that get turned on?
Do you
Holy
mean
fuck.
like
Wait.
mean like a private movie or like OnlyFans?
No, he's talking
how
about
would I-
like public
yeah,
for
public-
public
for public
consumption.
viewing,
yeah.
For public viewing. Yeah, of course. How about this? Men are more oppressed than women.
Yeah, I don't
You
agree with
wanna-
that.
You want to bite on that one?
You're really trying to cast a line here, huh? Oh man, I feel like there's okay. Sure. Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about like rights and stuff, you know? So I can think of 3 examples of things that strictly impact men that don't really impact women. So first off, and this is immediately upon birth, why I would think men are more oppressed than women. So upon birth, the vast majority of men in this country are get circumcised, which I view as child genital mutilation. It's done without their consent. I am against it. Women are not having their lady bits circumcised in this country on birth. So that's a pretty major issue that I view that impacts, that's immediately upon birth, men are treated unequally to women. The next is forced military conscription. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If we were to combine and add up all of women's collective grievances throughout all time, all the grievances, no right to vote, apparently you couldn't, there's something about bank accounts, couldn't have a bank account, inequality in the workplace, et cetera, unfair gender expectations, whatever. Put them all together, compare them to forced military conscription. I would argue that is a bigger grievance than all of women's collective grievances combined.
So circumcisions and draft.
No, just forced military conscription. And that's a bigger grievance, a bigger gender grievance than all of women's collective grievances.
And what's your third?
No, I'm kind of veering off here and just saying like whatever the feminists want to say is a terrible grievance upon women. I'm coming and saying, well, actually, this one sole grievance experienced nearly exclusively by men is worse than all of your grievances combined together.
No, it's experienced just exclusively by men.
I mean, they're going to argue, well, in World War II, there was a Soviet sniper force of 1,000 women.
Yeah, no, but that would be the Soviet, though. So here in the United States, totally agree.
Well, I was even just arguing like worldwide when it came to military conscription. Almost all battles dating back thousands of years, it's men have been forced to go to war and die, and women haven't. And that is a bigger grievance. And you know what? I'll even say just World War I and World War II, the suffering that men exclusively endured in warfare is a bigger grievance than all of women's historical collective grievances combined.
That's crazy.
How's that crazy?
Damn, that's crazy.
Give me an example. I'll allow you to give me one example that's worse than forced military conscription. That women
in World War II.
Give me just military conscription. Give me one example.
Octopus Tetro donated $100. Brian, look to the scriptures of Christ and you will see the need of circumcision. When we look at what God himself wants from us, it's necessary. Malek, you're from a Muslim culture, but look to Jesus.
I mean,
Malek came from Orthodox Christianity, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I'm mixed. I'm also Armenian, and I grew up with Armenian culture, and Armenia was the first Christian nation, so I'm Christian.
I don't actually know what the Christian position is on circumcision. I don't know, Andrew, if you're able to weigh in on this, but
it's mixed. There's been a big fight about it, especially over the last 100 years. So I'm not gonna dive too much into that. You would need somebody who had more nuance of church affairs than me when it comes to circumcision. But yeah, there's a big fight about it even now.
Yeah, I mean, it occurs to me though, if you take a secular look at circumcision, you remove the religious component. I mean, on its own, it occurs to me that it's a rather barbaric practice.
I don't know.
But bringing it back to you, okay, state one gendered grievance that women have experienced that's worse than forced military conscription.
I mean, I guess the outcomes of going to war, the outcomes of like what happens with women and like cities that are invaded.
So Hillary Clinton in the 90s said something along the lines of, women are the primary, I think she said, women and children are the primary victims of war. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think everyone's a victim of war, so no.
But everyone's a victim. But do you agree that women are the primary victims of war?
No.
Who are the primary victims of war?
I think all of the human species is.
No, who are the primary victims of war?
I have to name a man or a woman. That's my two options.
No, it's a group. So let me try to frame it better, make it a little easier. If you had to choose which sex,
that's what I just
if
asked.
you had to choose which sex, would you say is men or women who are primarily affected by warfare?
This is crazy.
It's not crazy.
Wait, no, let her answer. Go ahead.
I'll say women.
Women.
Wait, so
and why would you say that?
Put women are what? Put it in your own words. Women are what?
The main victim of war.
Wait, what? You didn't get what, Nick? You didn't.
That women are the main victim of war.
Why?
Okay.
How? This is why people shouldn't go to get a master's degree. After the first 4 years.
So why? I think Andrew was asking, why are women the primary victims of war?
Well, in the case I'm thinking of, World War II. And
yeah, World War II, sure. Let's use World War II. Okay.
Like in Asia, for example, you have men who can fight. They have weapons. They're able to protect themselves. Let's say, yes, outcome of war, a lot of people die on both sides. there's a lot of cases where nothing can happen, like a nuke, for example, or a bomb. There's a lot of cases where I'm not saying this is generalized for everything, but they had competitions where they would go into villages and R-word the women, kill them after. This happened to like children in front of the mothers, things like that, which is
Okay, so let's assume that's true, right?
It is
Yeah,
true.
you're talking
No,
about
but-
you're talking about Nanking.
Well, it didn't
Yeah,
just happen
it occurred
there.
to, yeah, I thought she was talking about Vietnam, but
It happened in the
she's talking
Philippines
about
too.
World
look,
War
yes,
II
but in
Nanking.
war, yes, okay. Let's say let's just agree with you. Yes, in war, rape occurs. Rape is terrible. It occurs. So your position is because rape occurs in war, women are the primary victims of war.
Well, I'm not saying that is like the only.
Let's say 100,000 women. I'm making up a number here. I don't know what the truth is. Let's say during World War II, 100,000 women were raped, and 20 million men were killed in World War II. Who's the primary victim of war
But it's
in
not
World War
just
II?
men dying in World War II. It's also women dying. They aren't just
The
getting
men are
R-worded.
forced to put
Wait.
their life on the line.
What You mean the women? Are you talking about civilian casualties
Yeah,
or
civilians, of course.
Okay, but now let's add on the 20 million military deaths. I might have my numbers wrong a little bit here, but so let's assume military deaths are like nearly exclusively male, like 99.99% male.
Okay.
Okay, so you have 20 million male military deaths versus let's exclude civilian populations because there's male civilian populations too. Let's just say only women are getting raped, right? 100,000 women get essayed. Who is the primary victim of war?
In the case you just described?
So let's say there's 20 million male deaths, military deaths, and then there's 100,000 women who are essayed, civilians.
Okay.
Who's the primary victim of war?
In that case, men.
Okay, so you've just made a case for
If
all
you're cutting
war.
out civilian casualties to prove this point,
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Then men.
but he can, especially since you're specifically looking at the United States. So, for instance, of the 292,000 members of the U.S. military who were killed by enemy fire, 16 of them total were female. 16.
of the
From the
United States, yeah.
Total. 16 from the United States for all of World War II, all of it.
Yep.
So who would you say then was the worst victim of war, for at least for the United States, if you just had to choose?
That's, the men.
The men. Now, if we were to go stat by stat, nation by nation, you're going to find something very similar to this. Because women, you may not know this, are actually usually protected in warfare conditions. Now, it is true that the communists did horrible things to their own population, the populations that they conquered. That is true. They did. The Russians especially. I mean, they went through Berlin, did horrific things to the women, but still predominantly the ones who suffered the most in even the European nations were men. I mean, just the casualty rates alone, as Brian is indicating, were overwhelmingly disproportionate. So knowing this new information, did you maybe want to change your answer?
What's the casualty rates on both?
On which, well, I mean,
Non-female and
you've
male.
already
Did you pull it up?
Female and you mean female soldiers?
No,
Or
I'm saying female civilians. Anyway.
civilians.
Yeah, if you want to know the disproportionate rate between the two, we can look those stats up for you as well. But under the assumption for a second that it is true that they were disproportionately male because they were, would you then still concede? Or would you say, no, women are still the victims, the primary victims?
I never even agreed with that original point. You said you have to choose one. I said I think all humans are victims of war.
No. And then when you modified your answer, you said women, though.
You said
No, I modified it because you made me modify it. You said choose men or women.
But what I did was I said if you had to choose between one sex or the other,
Yes.
which would you choose? You said women. So we're obviously asking that question so we can test your logic as to why you would pick women.
I chose that answer, and I said this is because of what goes on in war, the invasion of cities and things like that, where women will get attacked, SA'd,
What happens to the men? They will get SA'd, but sometimes up to 1/3 to 2/3 of the entire civilian population of men are put to the sword. And women usually don't have to deal with that problem. They get carried off as basically trophies, and they get to live. And the men
Not
get put on
necessarily.
spikes. That's what happens.
They don't allow them to live sometimes.
Sometimes that's true, but most of the time it's not true. Most of the time, when you're looking at the disproportionate rate of men versus women who are butchered in these massacres, it's still generally men. And the reason for that is because they don't want to leave an enemy at their back of possibly capable, able-bodied soldiers who could come after them. That's why that occurs that way.
I'm saying in war, I think that what goes on with when they invade certain cities and villages, things like that, I think not being able to defend yourself is very scary, right? I think that makes them
Can't
victims.
defend themselves either, if it's a civilian population.
Yeah, of course, but
I think we're in the U.S.
And yet, so the men are the ones, though, that are usually gathered up and systematically exterminated first. It is true that women do have to experience things like SA and things like this, but generally, many times more of them are allowed to live.
Also, you brought up defending yourself, but earlier you said you're against guns.
Wait,
We're talking about
don't derail. Don't derail. Wait, so who's the primary victim of war?
oh my gosh. Can I say all humans again?
No, you have to. You have to pick.
I guess we'll pick women.
We haven't made a convincing enough case to change your mind at all on.
Like if a man is paying for a first date,
What does the? Okay, yeah.
you know, that is showing her, if she is waiting, she wants a man that's going to be able to provide, okay, little things that are shown there.
Okay, so men are
I like-
typically expected to make the first move, approach, initiate, set up the date, plan the date, handle the logistics, pay for the date, go for the first kiss, move things forward from there. Physically,
That's a masculine man, someone who's
okay,
firm in themselves,
leading,
pursuing.
being dominant, masculine.
Mhm.
So that's what's expected very early and upfront from the man. So if that's kind of what men are expected to do, then what are women expected to do early on in the courtship process?
I would say respect them, show them feminine intentions, and just be a feminine woman. You know, loyalty if you are exclusive talking to that person.
Can you give me examples of that?
Like if a man is putting in this much effort to go and see you, you know, you're going to do your hair, you're going to look nice, you're going to give him attention, you're going to allow him to be a masculine man. You know, if he's opening up your door for you, if he's going to offer to pick you up, you know,
So,
there's little things we can do,
Brian,
like coffee or something.
You being a man,
but
do you care about any of those things?
What things?
The things that you just mentioned.
Like if you want a feminine woman, and I'll use the word like biblically, right? You know, in marriage, a woman will submit to her husband's authority because her husband is submitting to Christ and is leading the household. So you're trusting that they are going to lead you in the future. So as a woman, when you're going on a date, you know, it's not an interview. You're just getting to know that person, and you are appreciative and thankful for them, you know, being the leader and showing that masculine energy. And you there are being feminine and showing your feminine qualities, because it is an equal balanced unit that will become one in the future.
It just feels like a bamboozle. Oh, okay, you previously slept with your past 10 sexual partners
But you're
on
not
the
going to take
first
every
date.
girl out on a first date, you know? Like if you intentionally are looking to date someone, you'll take them on a date.
I think it's better to wait for a man as well. Like then you can like have a more intense bond with her anyway, or else it's better for you guys, I think, as well. That would be.
I understand what you're saying though. Like yes, if a woman is
It's
sleeping,
a raw deal. It's a raw deal. I think it's a raw deal. Oh, okay. A month ago, you just had a one-night stand. You were on some cruise or
a month
traveling.
ago to a first
month
date,
ago.
understandable. But if you're talking like a woman who is like, you know what, I have committed my life.
You've been celibate for 3
unending-
years. Maybe you get a bit of a pass. If you've been celibate for 3 years and then you want to wait, fine. But don't pull this game of like, oh, I want to wait 3 months, but then you a guy last week. That's the issue I have with it. Is being consistent in your values. I don't know.
I think
Andrew, you
that-
got anything for this?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind engaging a bit on this topic with you. So, not you, Brian. Sorry. Actually, he has a point. So, to speak to his actual point with no deflection at all, what would the TPUSA position on this actually be? Would the TPUSA position on this be that if a guy does end up, dating a chick who was very promiscuous just a month before, and she has suddenly turned to Christ in her 30s, of course, that he should date her? That he should wait? I mean, what is the prescription here, do you think?
Well,
If you're going to be charitable to Brian's view.
No, I actually agree with Brian when it comes to if somebody had been promiscuous for months prior and then all of a sudden has decided, okay, you know, today's the day I'm going to go on a date, I'm going to save myself. I think there's a lot more work that goes into that than just 1 week of hooking up with someone and then all of a sudden the week later you want to go on a date and be with someone. Like there's a lot of steps that we're missing here. So of course, if a woman has slept with, 10 men or however many and then is now going on a first date a week later or a month later, I do think that's a little early. Personally, I do think that's a little early to be like, okay, now I want to wait. I think as a woman, you would need to honestly reevaluate yourself and not date for a little bit and figure
Yeah,
that
from the
out.
man's perspective, that
But-
should be a massive red flag, right?
Right, no,
Like you would
yeah,
say
no,
that,
you're
yeah,
valid
of course,
there.
you'd say that.
Yeah, no,
So then,
it's a red flag.
I don't even understand what your argument with Brian is about then, because that's what he's saying. That's literally all the guy is saying is, well, how is this not a red flag that you decided, oh, look, I finally found Jesus, right? As you tend to see many of the stars, even who come through this show, who suddenly find Jesus. They continue to do and interestingly enough, but they claim that they did anyway. Are we supposed to give or excuse their past 100 sex partners just because now they have and claim that they found salvation?
No, that 100%
Would you
is a
consider that a
factor.
massive red flag?
No, it's a 100% a red flag. 100%. 'Cause it's a lack of judgment, and I do believe that Jesus Christ does save us for our sins, but I don't think it's going to be an overnight switch of one day you're like the day you become saved, the next day all of a sudden clean slate. Well, it is a clean slate, but it's not like the next day you're going to jump into a relationship. I mean, this is a years and years long process. So if somebody has decided to save themselves, like let's say 5 years later, and then you become into a monogamous relationship, let's say you're an ex or whatever it is. But no, I'm not disagreeing with Brian if looking at the timelines of a 1 week to a month. Like, no, that's very reasonable. And
Well, then I guess you're going to have to look at Brian and say, Brian, you were right.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 years. I'll give you 2 years. If
2 years.
If a woman has waited 2 to 3 years and has not engaged and has truly dedicated her life to her new self, then different scenario. But I will give you you're right with the red flag. I was agreeing with that.
Is that a checkmate? Checkmate? No.
Checkmate.
Well, statistically, I guess.
Statistically, what are the statistics on this? But go ahead.
Well, statistically, if you're looking at like her history of like past hookups and dating, and then she claims she seeks salvation, it's something to like. I feel like something to look into, but at the same time, according to like if we're getting into religious purposes, like we cannot cast stones at the person. Like let the.
Would you date a guy who's shorter than you?
Would I date a guy? I'm not sure actually.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $100. To skew this, as a man whore until I was 32, when I dated with intent to marry and met my wife within the first year. We had sex the first night and have not been apart since. When you know, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience. Also, Grid 1, I mean, I've had a 5-year relationship, 2-year relationship. I've had other long-term, I've had a 9-month, 1-year relationship. Most of these were not like, let's go on dates for 3 months and then finally have, no, we had sex relatively quickly, second, third date. And yeah, so thank you, Grid 1, for that anecdote. Wait, so you're saying something about, well, considering a woman's past promiscuity is casting stones, and you're not allowed
stones. I'm saying it's like you can take it into account, but I'm saying like let he who is blameless cast the next stone, which it's biblical. Yeah.
But so what's your point?
I'm saying.
Are you suggesting men should not consider women who've slept with 100 men previously as suboptimal partners?
No, I'm not saying that. They can consider whoever they want, however they want. I'm saying like to judge them openly, verbally is like.
Well, they're not going to throw a stone. Can they take their stones and go home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So then that's all he's saying, right?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm arguing. I'm not gonna like have a laugh and be like, oh, you fucking slut. No, it's just to me, it's like me advising other men, don't date those kinds of women. And for me personally, I would not date that kind of woman.
And that's totally fine.
That's the extent. That's the extent of my commentary.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine.
I don't make it a mission to go out of my way and be like, look at this particular woman who's a slut. I don't do that. Now, in my own assessment, I'm of course thinking, well, I don't think this would be a good person to date, but that's really the extent of it. I'm not going to go on the offensive and be belligerent and attack you for it, but I will advise other men, this is a suboptimal dating move, and for me personally, I wouldn't be about it.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair.
Valid. Yeah. What are you doing? What the fuck? What was that?
I have ADHD. I'm sorry. So
it's all good. It's all good. But look, I mean, I think it's wonderful if women are choosing to move in less promiscuous ways. If you try to prioritize long-term relationships, I think that's great. But do realize, even if you do make that proactive choice to change up the way you move, that men are still going to consider perhaps your past actions and behavior, and even though you've changed, still preclude you from wanting to pursue you for a serious relationship or any kind of relationship. And in that scenario, though, I can just tell, I'm just sort of explaining the guy's perspective here of, well, because for example, I'm not going to expose her, but we had a Christian girl come on the show, and she said multiple times that she was waiting for marriage. I think she'd been on the show twice, and then she came back on the show, and she said, well, I'm waiting till marriage to have sex. She came back on the show, and I give her credit for at least admitting this. She said, I had a slip up. I had sex with somebody. And then it would be very frustrating for me, for example, if I had been dating her in between that time, and then, but she was like, oh, I'm gonna wait. And then I find out like a week after we break up, for example, after I dated you for 3 months, and despite, my desires to have sex, you're like, no, I respected it. And then as soon as we break up, you go and another guy. I would, look, that's your prerogative, but I'd be like, well, did you really think that? Were those really your values? And then similarly, if I was about to pursue a woman who said,
Basf's donated $100. You guys are missing the issue here. It's not about being Christian now, it's that withholding sex is a tool of manipulation. Chad gets the cheeks up front, good guy has to wait for seconds.
No, which I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think women should use sex as a tool for manipulation, 100%. A woman shouldn't withhold sex within marriage, personally.
yeah,
But
well, he's even talking before that.
before,
but-
if you're going on dates,
Well, they're using it for compliance or leverage to secure a long-term relationship or to secure monogamy.
I don't think it's worth it.
What do you mean, for the guy or?
No, either way, I don't think you should sleep together
Oh.
before. But
Okay, sure. I'm trying to remember what I was saying. Oh, and just the last thing, I would also kind of feel like getting a bit of a raw deal if I just met a girl and she told me that a month ago she had a one-night stand with a guy, but now that she's met me, oh, okay, I'm waiting until marriage. I'd be like, my dude, a month ago you some dude in a club. Like, that's ridiculous. Good for you, but I feel like I'm getting a raw deal here, so goodbye. Like, it's not me feeling entitled to anything. It's me like, okay, I feel like a sucker in this situation, so this isn't a fit. So
Would there be like nothing else you were getting from the relationship?
What do you
Like,
mean?
Besides that?
What do you mean?
Because normally, like when you consider a relationship, you consider like multiple parts of it, not just the sexual end. Like, what if?
Sure. You can obviously, women offer a great deal outside of sex.
What if there was something else that you like found in her, like another quality that you liked?
She'd basically have to be a slave for me to accept this very suboptimal scenario where I'm essentially a sucker for a month ago, because this is the scenario I gave. A month ago, she had a one-night stand with some dude, and now she's telling me she wants to wait 3 months, 6 months, or until marriage to have sex. She's gonna have to basically be a slave for me. She's got to clean my house and shit. She's got to vacuum. She's got to do some Mr. Miyagi shit, paint the fence, wax my car and shit.
in this suboptimal scenario,
Yeah.
yes, I understand where you're coming from.
I also
Chores.
don't think any sane woman who wants to
Right.
date you would say, oh, hey, by the way, I just got banged 2 weeks ago, but I want to wait with you. Any sane woman will not tell you that. So this is a far out hypothetical that probably
she
will
might.
never
I
happen.
would hope she
And
would
if
be honest.
It's not about honesty. It's about, like, just, again, y'all are going to love me for this discretion, right? You don't need to know anything
I do
about
need to
what
know.
I did 2 weeks ago.
I
You
do
don't
need to know.
about the date I
I
had
do
2
need to
weeks
know.
ago.
I do need to know.
Why do you need to know?
Because if I find out, let's say we get engaged, and you fucking lied to me about that shit,
Okay.
it's fucking over. Goodbye. I don't care.
but this
I don't
is
care if the
so
wedding is fucking planned.
Okay.
And if you should never you shouldn't lie to a guy like that. What are you doing?
She's just helping.
Wait, was there a slip? Was there a slip?
No, she's just looking out. I don't think
Okay. Was there?
I
Nick?
didn't see it well, so I'm just making sure.
Okay. So what?
I know. I think I'm just having fun. So I think it's a really far out hypothetical situation that no woman's going to go on a date with you and then tell you that they did something 2 weeks ago. And if she wants to wait for 3 months, then like, yeah, it's a shitty situation. That's your choice to pursue that or not. So.
Well, the thing is like, I assume on this first date there would be some conversation about, where our values align or don't align when it comes to the rapidity with which we would. I'm framing this in. When it comes to, do you want to have sex? Do you want to wait? Not exactly in those words. And so if on that date she says, well, I'm waiting till marriage, but in like the scenario you gave 2 weeks ago, she f***ed some dude, that would be.
I'd find that interesting.
It would suck. That would be like, okay, cool, like that's not really in alignment with what you just told me, and then that's your choice to pursue that or not. And that's
So
what she
you're-
was
are
saying
you
is
a-
it takes time to kind of make those changes, and you have to also, and like that girl who said she had a slip up, it takes time to implement these changes and these choices and these habits.
So yeah, but you're okay. So is your advice then to you ought to omit or lie to men and not reveal?
No, that's not my advice. My stance
What you
is
said-
it's so hypothetical and it's so far fetched that like most
Okay.
girls won't say that.
Here's an example, right? If I'm actually interested in a girl, one of the questions I might ask her when first meeting her and screening her out is, when's the last time you've had, I mean, the phrasing might change.
So vulgar. When did you get banged last?
No, I said, when's the last time you've had sex with someone? That's a question I might ask because I want to know. You fucked a guy last week, not interested.
Yeah, and that's your choice, and that's okay.
Right, but so would you recommend a woman in that situation to lie?
No,
Okay.
she needs to say like, okay, like she needs to be forthcoming. I'm not saying you need to lie. I'm just saying like most women wouldn't have that kind of switch up or would say that.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, then wouldn't it be wiser advice then to say that if this is something which is new to you, if you've just made
You
this
should
switch over in
wait.
your life, that you should ease off of dating for a while?
I agree. I
altogether?
wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, you should wait.
If that becomes untied, is it like
No,
gonna-
it won't untie. It's just I got
Okay,
animated
I'm
when I
just-
was talking to you, and she was just like,
Okay,
"Oh, so."
let's just, if you can, just be cautious of that.
I will, I will.
Okay, so, well, why don't we, what do you rate yourself on the wife scale? 1 out of
Like,
1 to
what
10?
is the wife scale?
Like, are you wife
Are you wifey
material?
material?
On a scale of 1 to 10, that's what he wants. So we'll go around the table really quick on this. Go ahead.
Wife scale, yes, absolutely. I have full capabilities of becoming a wife.
Oh no. I mean, you are correct me if I'm wrong, you are a sex worker, right?
Yeah. Currently.
Why would you think that you would make a good wife?
Just because I have a certain profession does not take away from my ability to care, love, and provide something that my partner is seeking. So, I mean,
The science would disagree. Have you ever heard of a phenomenon called pair bonding?
no, tell me.
Are you aware that the less sexual partners a woman has, the easier it is and the more likely it is that she can pair bond with her first sexual partner?
Okay, but that doesn't mean that I can't bond with my person now.
Well, it's true. You could be the exception to the rule, but wouldn't it throw up a red flag if it was known that the more sexual partners a woman had, the less likely it would be that she would actually be able to bond with you? For instance, the more men you sleep with, the more likely you are to be divorced, for instance. The more men you sleep with, the more likely you are to step out of a long-term relationship. All of those things are true, and that's probably due to this pair bonding thing. So why would a man want to trust a sex worker to be a wife?
Maybe he has also been a part of the industry and understands. And also, there are men who make allowances or grace for women and their past. There are men out there, and it's not a subpar choice. It is just a personal choice. And as far as pair bonding goes, I believe that it is up to the woman and her own intuition and her own body and her own ability to connect with oneself when it comes to connecting with another partner. Is you have to know yourself. You have to know deep down, like you can get all scientific, you can bring me statistics, but all it boils down to is the woman's self-awareness and
Did you say
the connection that she
scientifical?
has with herself. I don't care. Don't grammar police me. I'm just making a point here.
You can know yourself.
Well, I was just curious. As we get into more of the scientifical data here, if we can maybe back up just a little bit.
Okay, yes.
And we can look at this objectively. If your son came to you and said, "Mom, I'm going to marry a sex worker," what would your advice to him be? Follow your dreams, my son?
My advice to my son, if he wanted to pursue a sex worker, was, does she have an exit plan? What is y'all's long-term goals? Do you support this? And if not, what is that trajectory going to look like? It's all circumstantial, and there's no just like copy and paste answer to this. It's about what one another's motives are, and if it's not a good fit, then it's not a good fit, and it's not going to be beneficial or healthy for everyone.
Now, let's say he came home with Betty Sue, and he loved Betty Sue, and Betty Sue had no sexual partners, and she was just head over heels for him, and so was a sex worker at the same time. And their sex looked about the same to you. Which one would you recommend your boy go with?
Whatever he feels, or
Yeah,
whichever.
No, what would you recommend? Not
Me
what you
personally,
I
I
know
would
we already know his feelings. He can't decide. Mom, what should I do, Mom? Should I go with the prostitute or with Betty Sue? Which one would you tell him?
I would look at either girl's ambition and what they want to do with their life, because Betty Sue can be a leech, and that or whoever it is can be
They both want to
self-sufficient
be
and want to add
veterinarians.
value.
They both
So
want to be
whoever's going to
veterinarians. They both
add
have about the
value.
same IQ. and they both have about the same resources to go to veterinarian school. If you had to choose, which one would you tell your boy he should go with?
Whoever's going to add the most value to his life. And if the prostitute or whoever it is can give him more life advice or more knowledge that's going to help him in the long term, then so be it.
And which one would you just intuitively say, without looking at any scientific data at all, if your boy asked you, which one do you think will be more loyal to me? Which one would you think you would tell him would be more loyal, that was more likely to be more loyal to him?
I believe it's all about their own personal choice to commit. Yeah, I mean, you can look at someone's past behavior, you can look at all of that, but it's about the commitment and the now and the choice that they're making. So Betty Sue may have not been with anyone else, and that might motivate her to pursue other options, as opposed to the prostitute who has been with several people and knows what else is out there, knows that my son is a good man, and that she is winning the lottery because she has experienced all of these other things.
But sexual experience means nothing in the dating world, because if your son, hypothetical son, is going to a relationship with a sex worker, which both of you are.
The Bronasons donated $100. Left to right, Morgan wife 8, Purple Jacket 3 not a wife, Already a wife, Angry A Cups 4 and not a wife, Kmart Cardi B 4, Queen of Australia 6 wife, Bunny Ranch Thought 4, Leche Banks 3 not a wife.
Yo, this guy's gunning for me, man. This guy is gunning for me, bro.
We have one more coming through, and then Morgan will finish with her question there. Thank you, KDF. Thank you, the Bronasons. So the guys before me weren't good enough for you to settle down with, but they still got to F. Now I'm the man of your dreams, but I don't even get what the bums got. Make it make sense. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's going back to what I was talking about before. So women will, like, it's just funny with that, like, they'll give the sexual benefit to these, you'll say they're boys, they were jerks, assholes, not deserving of it. And then the guy who is actually deserving of it, he's the good guy, whatever, he's the one who gets to wait. Men are waking up to this and seeing that's kind of a raw deal. And yeah.
Can I just make this last point real quick? I'm almost done now.
Okay, and then we'll have
I'm just curious on this, just back to you real quick. How would you feel if you hadn't eaten breakfast this morning?
For me?
Yes, you.
Oh, I mean, I had breakfast.
Okay, I thought you did. Thank you.
Was that a jab? What was the point of that question?
Nickelodeon donated $100. She would tell him neither, because her degenerate ass will be desperate to keep the only man in her life to herself.
She would tell me that because her
as if like my hypothetical.
Andrew, do you want to explain that really quick?
Yeah, so this question, and it's more of a meme. It doesn't really have any scientific foundation at all, but it is kind of funny. If you ask a person what they had for breakfast this morning, you're engaging, or how would they feel if they hadn't had breakfast this morning? What you're doing is you're engaging in a hypothetical, and you're trying to examine what they think they would feel like had they not eaten breakfast. But there's many people who can't engage in hypotheticals, and so they just respond with, but I did have breakfast this morning. And so that's the point of the question.
Interesting. Interesting. Morgan, you had a question.
And you, just to be clear, you did have breakfast this morning.
I don't understand. Okay, all I hear is breakfast right now, so let's keep it rolling.
Okay.